Hey, welcome to Motorsports Nation. This is our Las Vegas recap show, and we're going to talk INDYCAR at Arlington. Our guest analyst this week, joining us, our good friend Roy J. Akers, Skyview Sports. Hello, Roy. Welcome.
Welcome, Bob. Welcome, Nikolai.
And Nikolai Culp. Nikolai was our man on the scene covering the action there in Arlington. We're going to talk INDYCAR as well in this episode. But first, let's start with NASCAR, gentlemen. Wow, what a weekend. It was 5 days of race coverage because we had high-limit sprint cars racing on the dirt track, which featured a number of our NASCAR drivers and personalities. And then, of course, we had on-track action with the O'Reilly Auto Parts race on Saturday and the Cup race on Sunday at Las Vegas on the Oval. My initial takeaway for the weekend is, boy, did I have my prediction wrong on Kyle Larson. He opened up the Las Vegas stand winning at the dirt track in the high limit sprint car race on Thursday night. And then he won the O'Reilly Auto Parts race in the Junior Motorsports number 88 on Saturday. It looked to be another one of those potential Kyle Larson skunkdom weekends like what we experienced at Bristol, where he went out and gave a boot whipping to everybody on the Saturday and in the then Xfinity race, and then he dominated the Cup race on Sunday. That did not happen. The Toyotas pretty much owned it, with Christopher Bell winning the pole, with Bell, Hamlin, and Ty Gibbs, your top three qualifiers. It was a very dominant weekend for the Toyotas. And yes, Kyle Larson led 56 laps in that. I don't mean to say that there were not other competitors, but Toyota put their stamp on this race. Roy, how did you see that?
Well, I kind of thought that's what was going to happen in the race. I thought Toyota qualified very well. Denny Hamlin, won the race last fall in that Ford won last spring. But, you think about, the driver, for for the Wood brothers or whatever. And so I really thought that this was going to be a Toyota day. Toyota had what, 5 out of the top 10 cars finish in that race. This is the first time ever I basically had the 5 top qualifiers in my NASCAR fantasy lineup, and they all paid, very, very well. I do think though that the Hendrick Motorsports, I thought they looked very good in the race. But you did say, and it's true, they have not won yet this year, and that's kind of surprising to a degree. William Byron, as you know, won the last 2 Daytona 500s until Tyler Reddick did this year. I don't really think that these races early on really play into Hendrick Motorsports' hands all that well. But I think that that's going to change as we move on into Darlington and hit some of these other tracks, Miami, even Talladega, as we go to some of those. Hey, let's hear it. Toyota is racing very, very well. And not Tyler Reddick, but Chase Briscoe hasn't even kicked into high gear yet. And he won, last fall, over at Darlington. So we're going to see, I do see some changing of the guard as we go on, but I thought Toyota was going to do very, very well in the qualifying. And you taught me that, Bob. It's all about the qualifying, right? Right, Nikolai? It's all about that. And so I have taken that. And so I'm rambling on.
Well, you bring up a great point, because another part of the Toyota story, although it was painful, was Chase Briscoe, because he, multiple issues on pit road, but he drove back through the field and ultimately finished 8th, probably reflective of how strong Toyota was overall at Las Vegas. Nikolai, how did you see the Las Vegas race play out? And is there trouble at Hendrick Motorsports, or are they just showing consistency and just haven't gotten the win yet?
I think I agree with what Roy said, that just kind of the way the schedule lined up early on just doesn't really fully fit Hendrick, or they haven't performed as well at these tracks before. I know Larson's won a couple of Vegas races and things like that, but Phoenix, they haven't done well at it in a couple of years in terms of the win. And then you got super speedways and the road courses, which are a little bit of a wild card. So once again, as Roy said, just looking at these next few tracks, Darlington, Martinsville, Bristol, a lot more recent success as compared to those other tracks. But Vegas as a whole, Toyota looked very, very good. I think Chase Elliott honestly was a bit of a good surprise. Like, in the next gen car, they kept on saying throughout the race on the broadcast, oh, Chase Elliott, he's never led a lap at Vegas in the next gen car, and he still hasn't. But he finished runner-up. He finished second. He was chasing down Denny Hamlin for the win at the end there to try to make it interesting.
Right.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Roy.
I just want to add a real quick blurb because I agree with Nikolai. I thought a surprise was Chase Elliott, finishing second in that race. But Chase Elliott, he's due. He got off to a slow start last year, in the first half of the season before he ended up with 2 wins. And I'm really hoping that Chase Elliott does catch fire.
I was able to capture that moment, Roy, after the race on pit road when we were having the media scrum there. And you could tell Chase was torn because while on one hand he was glad about, he was in the hunt, that second place finish, and he had Denny Hamlin in the sights. But on the other side of that coin, he admitted that, you know what, the Toyotas were just stronger than us, and I could not chase him down. Even if there was 10 more laps, Chase Elliott felt like it was going to be difficult to get there. Okay, guys, I think another element that I want to bring to the conversation is we all know Bozy Tekrovic. He has been posting and providing a lot of insight and commentary on pit crews. He trains a lot of the NASCAR pit crew members. And on race analysis for Las Vegas, he identified that, hey, Bell's pit crew team, not only did they win the pole and were competitive throughout the race, but Bell's team turned in the fastest pit 4-tire and refuel pit stop of the year so far, and the first team to break the 8-second barrier with a 7.98 4-tire stop. I wanted to note in that's also an area where Hendrick has an opportunity for improvement because the Chase Elliott's pit crew was the second best performing on average. But if you look at Larson and you look at the other Chevrolets, they're well down the list there. So Toyota is not only showing that performance on track, but also on pit road.
Yeah, I think Christopher Bell, he reminds me a lot of Alex Palou that we're going to talk about in the IndyCar segment that we're going to do. He's just an excellent driver. He doesn't seem to miss a trick. He's got a great pit crew. Toyota is just, they just seem to have all the bases covered from pit stops to, turning out fast race cars. It seems like they're doing things all the way around and very, very well. And that's the reason why you see him at the top right now. And is Chevy going to be able to make that comeback? Is Ford going to be able to do the same thing? Ford only had 2 cars in the top 10. I thought there were 3 RFK cars in the top 10, but I saw that Prix kind of fell out in the last lap or two, so he finished like 12th. But you look at Chris Buescher, you look at Brad Keselowski, and it seems like between those two and Ryan Blaney, they're pulling Ford up. But both other manufacturers are way behind compared to what Toyota is right now. And how long does that continue? Well, we're going to find out.
And Ty Gibbs, I feel like a broken record that we keep seeing indicators, Nikolai, that Ty Gibbs is maybe right there. I mean, qualified third, was up there, battling it out, ultimately finished 5th in that race. Also, he was double dipping because he was also competing over at the dirt track. He had a really scary crash at the Thursday night, a high limit race over at the dirt track, but he looked good on Friday and Saturday night. Did not make the A main, but he got in laps and was competitive. And you could see just the excitement and the joy on his face of getting to race the sprint car. Does Ty Gibbs play into your view of what happens at Darlington, Nikolai? You were there at that race last year.
He could. I think his best shot of getting his first career win in the next few weeks is probably Bristol. He's led a ton of laps there, but he did finish runner-up in the spring race 2 years ago. So he could be potentially a factor, but there's so many rumors or reports or what the drivers and teams are saying about what's going to happen this week that who knows who's going to be in contention for the win and everything. With how well Toyota's done all around this year, and we all know how well Denny Hamlin does at Darlington, if Ty Gibbs could get some of that expertise as well, you never know. So we will indeed see. But he's on a hot streak right now, 3 straight top 5s.
Yeah, and exciting to see him get to race the sprint cars and just I sense being in the pits at both venues, a lot of joy where I did not see that last year. He looked burdened and struggling to try to connect with the car and the team. I don't see that this year. He looks like a different driver. Team, that wraps up our time for reviewing what happened at Las Vegas. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk IndyCar. Nikolai was there at Arlington, witnessed it all. He's going to bring us up to speed, and we'll be back with that right after this.
What a day. Rock and roll, let's go! Do you want an experience that wakes you up? A place where you can scream to your heart's delight? Go ahead. No one will hear you anyway.
Yeah, let's go, baby!
Here, you don't just watch. You feel. Come as you are and have a damn good time.
Who is your daddy?
That rumble you hear, that growl you feel, that's us.
Hey, it's Bob Francis at Motorsports Nation. Welcome back from the break. Joining us, our guest analyst this week, our good friend Roy J. Akers from Skyview Sports, and Nikolai Culp. Nikolai was there at Arlington. In this segment, we're going to talk IndyCar. We're going to talk Arlington. Nikolai, sort of give us our picture of what you witnessed there. I'm curious about an inaugural event. Did they pull it off? And then how was the racing?
It was really impressive, the venue, honestly. I've only been to one other street race, so I couldn't tell you much about comparing street races, but the local news here in DFW, they've been talking about this race for a couple months now, and then the last few weeks they've really been sinking their teeth into it because all the preparations, shutting down the Arlington streets, but just the visuals were crazy too. I grew up in this area, going to Texas Rangers games as a kid, going to the football stadium, whether it's the Cowboys or going to the Cotton Bowl, and just to see race cars driving around those things. And even in the background of a couple places, you could see Six Flags, the amusement park around here. So you know, from that perspective, childhood me was just kind of blown away. But from a racing fan's perspective, I mean, it was a pretty solid race, I thought. There were a lot of passing opportunities, a lot of different things happening, obviously, with having to use a certain amount of tires. That kind of spiced things up strategically, but also just Alex Palou said it, but that last pass that Kyle Kirkwood made on him for the win, that was an incredible pass. I mean, just the last second dive. And so it was very impressive. There was a lot of passing opportunities. It was a really unique course in a sense, especially with the straightaway on the back, almost a mile long, but it also had some kinks, so it wasn't really a full straight. So honestly, the racing was great. The venue was great. The crowd was great. A very interactive crowd, which was really fun to see.
And exciting.
A question I have real quick.
Roy.
How much was the NFL involved in the game? I mean, we know Jerry and all that, but do they have the Fox crew? Do they have any of the athletes come around? Did they participate at all in some of the activities? And, you know, the fans were out there kind of swarming them a little bit?
That's a good question. Active, there wasn't. Brandon Aubrey, which is the Dallas Cowboys kicker, he did the INDYCAR two-seater pre-race. So that was the only active NFL or Dallas Cowboy that was there, but they had some legends, and same with the Texas Rangers. So DeMarcus Ware, he played for the Cowboys forever. Yeah. He was at the race. Pudge Rodriguez, Rangers legend. He's got a statue outside the stadium. He was at the race. They had a couple of autograph sessions with IndyCar legends like Bobby Rahal, and then Pudge, DeMarcus Ware, and a couple of other people as well. So they did have some people there, and then Jerry Jones was obviously there as well. So, but not as many active, but more Hall of Famers, legends, and then obviously Jerry Jones, because Jerry Jones.
So we saw Kyle Kirkwood, you know, a bit dejected and disappointed with his second place finish at Phoenix Raceway a week ago. So I think he's now leading the point standings, right? So if I remember correctly, he was fourth at their opener in St. Petersburg, and he was second at Phoenix. And then he wins in that incredible pass that you just described over Alex Palou to take the victory, and now leads the points coming out of Arlington. What were some other competitive cars? Who else did you note that really had a lot of spicy fun there at the Arlington race?
Well, looking at the finishing results, he ended up finishing fourth, but you got to give a shout out to Marcus Ericsson. He got his first career pole in IndyCar, and to do it at an inaugural event. Will Power, I think it's been a struggle of the start to the year, but for him to get his first podium with Andretti, first year leaving Penske, so I think you got to point him out. I mean, Andretti, they were 3 of the top 4, so Andretti as a whole, a really good weekend for them as well. But then, I mean, just going down the order, nothing more than outside of the Andretti guys, and then obviously Palou, of course he was up there, but man, he's on a, I don't know if we can call it a cold streak since he finished second, but he hasn't led the championship in a couple of weeks, which is crazy after he led it for almost 2 straight years there.
Right.
Yeah, well, you know, the thing is with Kyle Kirkwood, I was looking at the pressers afterward and the transcripts that were available by IndyCar. Kyle Kirkwood, he said, I did the pass at the perfect time. He says, if I would have waited even one lap, he says, Palou would have won the race. So you have to give credit to a guy who timed his pass perfectly, because he said Palou had him blocked. He says he knew what was coming, and he knew he had to jump on him. And I guess with the tire rub and all that, he said that was pretty much it. So you got to give Kirkwood that. Like you said, Nikolai, and Bob as well. Team Andretti, I they haven't really been one of the best teams in IndyCar. And now signing Will Power, you wonder how having a KG veteran, just a great Hall of Fame type Indy driver on that team is working it out. But when you have, Kyle Kirkwood and you have Will Power in there, as two of your three drivers, that is awesome.
Well, what about Joseph Newgarden? I think that, boy, Fox Sports sure spent a lot of time cutting commercials, and Newgarden was everywhere in the promos. And Roy, going to your point about the NFL integration, I think one of the most compelling segments I saw from a fan activation standpoint was the interview that Fox Sports did with Roger Penske and Jerry Jones. And you sort of have these two titans of big organizations that are employ thousands of people to put on sports entertainment. Jerry Jones and him talking about the stadium and working with the city of Arlington and sort of making the event happen from a logistics standpoint, and Roger Penske talking about the partnership with Fox Sports. And I think we see a theme developing here, team. I think we see Fox and their relationship with IndyCar, their relationship with NASCAR, really trying to elevate the game and activate a much bigger portion of the fandom out there and get that cross promotion going. We talked a little bit about this last week after the Phoenix race and the crossover between NASCAR and IndyCar at Las Vegas. It was crossover between the dirt track, high limit racing, and those guys and NASCAR. But I think the Arlington race, my takeaway, Nikolai, is when you have a first time event where there are so many unknowns, but you have that sort of quality racing and quality venue and fan activation, the takeaway from my perspective was it's a huge win, and it's a huge win for Fox Sports in terms of the viewership numbers that just came out were really strong.
Yeah, Nikolai, question I have, you're in touch with the pulse of what's going on in the Dallas Arlington area. Did you get the sense that this is a one-off situation, which I don't think any chance of that? You think that this is something that they're building for a great run to really incorporate the Dallas Fort Worth market?
It seems like they're in it for at least a few years here. I saw an interview. I wish I remembered who it was, but they were saying, I think it was the Arlington mayor maybe, saying that he was hoping that this is a multi-year deal. They're still talking to IndyCar about further details with contracts and everything. But I mean, since the last race at Texas Motor Speedway 3-4 years ago, there hasn't been any IndyCar in the DFW area. So if they don't plan on going back to TMS, Arlington's the spot now, I would say, because I mean, we don't really have a lot of big built up racetracks outside of Texas Motor Speedway. So the next great thing to do is build a street course or go to a street course. So it seems to be that it's going to be a multi-year deal. It only takes a couple of months to build the track. And I mean, the build up and the breakdown, it's a little bit of a process, of course, as is every street race, but the rain, it's a perfect kind of in between where it's right after the football season. It's right before the baseball season. So if you can keep it at this slot in the calendar, it works because the Arlington Entertainment District is not as busy as they are during the football and the baseball season. So,
yeah, Bob, you and I spoke on this matter in my podcast last week. I do think Fox would like to see IndyCar and NASCAR have a couple of weekends, and this might be the road course venue, either this or COTA, because with Fox and the NFL, I think Fox, IndyCar, in the NFL, NASCAR, I think that is, it's a bone that you got to chew on. If you're a dog, you're going to come at this one. I think it's a great thing to do, especially in the off season of the NFL, where, it's not too hot yet in Dallas. I don't know that they would want to put these races, like back to back or whatever. I think you want to spread out a little bit, but I think it's really something. I think Fox would like to get their numbers. Something that I'm seeing is so many sports are disappearing from network TV. They're going on. No, I'm sorry, CW. I'm sorry, Amazon. I'm sorry about some of these places. I understand that you're getting the money. I get it. But I don't like having 5 or 6 apps to find different things. After a while, I just get bored.
Nikolai, I think one of the compelling arguments was we heard a lot of drivers were not real comfortable with the street course that was built in Nashville because of how narrow some of the sections were. But every single driver that I heard interviewed at Arlington complimented the course, said it was great. It was fun to drive. There were opportunities to overtake drivers safely. Yeah, there were a couple of incidents, but that's street racing. But I think if you have that sort of momentum building, as Roy just mentioned about, from a sports entity standpoint, NFL, NASCAR, INDYCAR, from a Fox, platform standpoint, you get this sort of fan activation with the crowd that turned out and the television audience for the Arlington race. But you can lay on top of that every single driver that was interviewed loved the course. They thought that was a fun, competitive race. And I think if you have that triple header or triple play, then you have a recipe for success. Guys, that's what we're going to have to put a period on it there. Nikolai, thanks for bringing us that perspective. As our man there at Arlington, it looks like that's going to be something to keep our eyes on for years to come. We hope so. This has been Motorsports Nation. Up on the screen right now, you'll have contact information for how you can reach Roy and follow all of his content over at Skyview Sports and the podcast that we frequently do together called High Bank Fury. Roy is the host of that show. And then Nikolai has a lot of content on his YouTube channel. He'll be doing a lot more reporting for Go Full Throttle this year. We're looking forward to that. Gentlemen, thanks for being on Motorsports Nation. And fans, you'll be able to reach these two experts and follow their content with that information on your screen. And we'll see you next time on Motorsports Nation.